Now we're on to part 4. In the very first part of this adventure, I said that we could have chosen P is greater than 0.67 instead of does not equal to. Now the reason why we could have done greater than is because when you take this 458 and divide it by 635, it ends up being 72%. And 72% is greater than 0.67. So the question is, how does that change our hypothesis test if we use a different alternate hypothesis? Okay, well, it changes two things. Number one is it might slightly change this, okay, our z-score and p-value. Those might be slightly different in StatCrunch. However, we should still end up rejecting the null. The other thing that it will change is that it will allow me to say something a little bit stronger over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to StatCrunch. And when I go into StatCrunch, I'm going to put in my new alternate along with the 458 out of 635. All right, so let's do this. I go stat, I go proportion stats, one sample with summary. And I'm going to type in that 458 out of 635. I need to change this to 0.67, so this was the same as the last video, but now I want to select greater than. Okay, now I'm going to hit compute. And what you'll notice is that my z-stat ended up being exactly the same at still 2.747, but my p-value changed. It's 0.003. Okay. However, notice that 0.003 is still less than 0.05. So it's still way in the tail. Okay. Why did it change? Well, one of the reasons why it changed is because when I do a greater than test, this is actually a one-tail test, not a two-tail. So when I'm doing greater than, what StatCrunch is doing is it's just doing the greater than or the right tail. So instead of having basically a two-tail, which is double, I have just one tail, which is half. So that's why I end up with 0.003. However, you'll notice that my final conclusion is still the same. It's still really weird, so I would reject the null. We still reject the null when it's less than 5%. Okay, now, here's the good news. Because we said that P is greater than 0.67, I actually can make a stronger statement down here. I can say, according to our data, there is sufficient evidence to support the percent that own a pet is greater than 67%. I'm only allowed to use the language here that is in my alternate hypothesis. So my alternate hypothesis for this problem is greater. That's why I can say greater. In the previous example, it was does not equal to, so all I could say was changed. Okay. All right, that was part 4.